Hello, friends, audience, loyal audience. Welcome to my ad hoc ranting and internet show. Today is very important point. The European countries and probably the US as well are probably guaranteeing that they won't be involved in this war with Russia. Russia being this big 800-pound skin and bone bear, right? I'm saying skin and bone is because it was exposed in Ukraine to be really be nothing when it comes to military sense. In military sense, it is nothing. So today I'm going to explain to them that their stand on Ukraine is really wrong. No matter how much they're involved under table or unseen behind the scene, no matter how controlled this movement by Pustalenin that they think or know it is, no matter what their position is on the current events, I have all the reasons to believe they will not go unscathed and not be involved in a war with this Russia sooner or later. Maybe you probably have the impression that this is all under control by Israel, arranging things, and you have a role to play. So government or establishment in Germany or France or here and there, that those establishments are and others as well are integral part of this framework of Israel, and that the current events are playing within or taking shape or playing within that framework that is the strategy put forth by Israel, which has been in development for decades, probably quite a few years. But all that is a misconception, folks, misunderstanding. The current war is very complex, and you Europeans and Americans will not get out of it scot-free, if you will. Scot-free, the crow. A man runs and turns into a crow and flies off, right? That's Moses the crow. And flying off, 2 feet good, 2 wings better, arms for wings. And flying means you're above the law, right? But back to our original point, enough fun. Pustalenin, whether he's a hologram or what, I don't care. But I would want to talk about the regimen or establishment in Moscow. That is really one of the main legs of the tripod of Israel. Many legs, let's put it this way. I don't know, 8-legged octopus or whatever, spider. Nonetheless, is something unpredictable. They have a strategy of taking over Europe and firming up the rule of that cabal, lizard eye cabal of Moscow, which really represent Israel or a surrogate of Israel, right, over Europe. Poverty, no poverty, wealth, blah, 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 all that is nonsense, folks. It's all concentrated in few hands, and all belong to that cabal. And if they come into Europe, they will do the same thing. Poverty will spread and so on. But now here's the important point. What Pustalenin is beyond a certain very simple strategy and approach to it, have really nothing else going. And if you want to imagine it, and I will elaborate on this. Do you remember when Mel Gibson asked that guy in the train or the truck, what is the plan, right? In Thunderdome, beyond Thunderdome. And that guy replied, with like sarcasm, plan? There ain't no plan, right? You may think that's a joke. No, folks. That polity, that regimen, that cabal, lizard eye cabal in Moscow, have a very simple plan, folks. And even though that guy declared there's no plan, but the plan was in execution, that he escaped and he was riding a truck and probably a train, if I recall correctly, and was moving on the track, moving forward. The plan was the execution is getting away from where he and his folks were. So there was a plan now. The plan of Pustalenin is really going, sweeping over Europe. You may dispute that. Don't dispute it, folks. This is reality. Now, some people are confused. What is Putin gonna do now he's defeated in Ukraine? Because they know, I said this before, these guys will not change their mind about attacking Ukraine and attacking Europe. No, they will not change that strategy. But the tactics are changing and evolving. So now, they did what they did in Chechnya and Syria and Afghanistan and here and there. When they failed conventionally, they resort to murdering civilians and burning cities and so on and so forth. That's basically what he is. Similar to Alfred Pennyworth when he said, some men just want to see the world burn. That's what Pustalenin is. That's what he represents. That's their dogma. That's their understanding of things. They don't understand anything else, folks. Pustalenin has a framework, and that framework is his rule, ultimate despotic totalitarianism rule over others. That's the only framework he has. Anything else works within that framework, in the borders and confines of that framework. Nothing else really. So now back to the Europeans. So for you, this Pustalenin and his polity and his regime is a problem for Europe. I mean, he's not a small country like Georgia or like the Baltic Sea or something like that, where you really worry less about them, because in case of, in times of contingencies, you can rise up to the occasion and put them back in their place and straighten them out, or straighten them up, if you will. This is a major country, big country, with nuclear weapons and psychotic minds in there. And again, you may think all this is under control. Things could go out of control, folks. I don't know where you never heard this before. No matter how sophisticated the plan is, no matter how sophisticated the interconnections are and interwoven are, and how secretive you are about this, and the unbreakable bond and so on, there's always a chance of things going wrong. Always. You never abandon this concept, period. So European countries, the way I see it is eventually you will be dragged into this war, or other wars like in the Baltics or Finland and here and there. And you're not going to go unscathed, basic and simple. The plan as it started, ain't no plan, and whatever plan was going on in the execution, or spontaneous, or reaction, reflexes to what's going on, if you call that a plan, is faltered. And Pustalenin is following what he usually does. They falter on the ground, and they have a perfect record. Those Pustalenins and their world, they have a perfect record of faltering conventionally and then resorting to mass casualties of bystanders, because for them, that's how they influence the mind of their enemy. So if their enemy is government or organization or what it is, and they fail to defeat it on the battlefield, they go hurt their civilians, right? And that makes their enemy capitulate, because their enemy has this humanistic nature. They care about not the population not suffering and so on and so forth. So Scandinavians, Germanics, French, whoever you are, this world, it's going awry already. You can prepare for it, and I'm sure some of you are prepared for it, but don't fight it piecemeal and one at a time, because that's going to serve Pustalenin's purpose. Right now is the time to fight that beast in Moscow and its surrounding, in Ukraine, and it's now. Again, there are talks about United States and Europe sending heavy weapons and so on. Oh boy, Fox, these guys, in order to deceive you, they send a couple of tanks, a couple of missiles and so on, which are ineffective. What these basically do is they shoot down a couple of airplanes, right? Or something like that, and then they distract the masses in Europe and here and there. And then you would think, oh, well, they were in support of Ukraine, but not. NATO, EU, United States, Gulf Arab countries, and Syria's regime, and Iran's regime, and China, and here and there. They're in full support of Pustalenin, United States Congress, United States Senate, and the White House, and whoever is in establishment in the United States. They are issuing executive orders and appropriation bills and debt limits and whatnot, and they're transferring all this stolen illegitimate money to Putin, Pustalenin. So now, aside from the investors, which really are stealing trillions a day, aside from Bitcoin of Israel, which has to be supported, also taking like what, $1 trillion a year or something. Now Russia comes and now it's sitting on eating out of United States dish. How much can you bear, you Americans? I don't know. But hey, if United States, Gulf countries, Arab Gulf countries, or rulers of the oil, I call them, and others, right, like Syrian regime, Algerian regime, Egyptian regime, Jordanian regime, Iran's regime, Chinese regime, and here and there, if they're not supporting, like way fully supporting Pustalenin, Russia would have collapsed by now. They did the same thing in the expedition in Syria. The Gulf Arab countries covered shouldered full responsibility for the financial part of the expedition of Russia for the past 10, 11 years. So they made money too, right? Not just that, they supported their economy so that Russia cannot falter. Had Russia not being supported in Syria, they would have probably thought twice about it. And had they gone to Syria and not being supported financially by whoever, right? They would have collapsed as a country, similar to Afghanistan, and now in Ukraine, similar to Afghanistan, and in Chechnya, similar to Afghanistan. Folks, there is an international support for this regime, this Desert Eye cabal in Moscow. And that's under the hegemony of Israel, by order of Israel. There you have it, to ask European folks. You have a problem on your hand, and this war is more complex than you think. Putin is not going to back down, even though he already lost the war. And things are going to become more complex. It's that simple, folks. I can't understand where is it you don't understand what's going on. Right now, you Scandinavians, you Germans, you Italians, you French, you Spanish, you Germanic Scandinavians, Romanians, Magyars or Magyars, Polish, Baltics. Right now, for you, the only solution is to fight Pustalenin in Ukraine and make sure he's defeated and that he doesn't progress anymore. That's right now what it is. There are scare tactics going on just like before the war. They wanted to scare, unnerve the Ukrainians and the Europeans that this cycle was going, he's launching missiles and so on. It's a lie, folks. These are scare tactics. Pustalenin will not use nuclear weapons if he knows he's going to be hit back. That means being a hologram, or his polity, or his brothers like Pug, Lavrov, and so on. Anyways, that's what it is. European countries, there's no escaping this war, and it's becoming more complex and more complex. And right now, it's unpredictable. Let's put it this way: that polity, that Desert Eye cabal in Moscow, now that's becoming unpredictable. Nuclear, don't worry about that. If you want to worry about that, how long are you going to worry about that? How long? Can you live under the shadow of nuclear threat for the rest of your existence as a country, as a society, as a polity, as whatever it is? You give him now, you give him an inch now, he's going to try to take a mile tomorrow. And if he feels, those Pustalenins, if they feel that their hint of nuclear weapons and so on has gained them grounds in Ukraine or in the geopolitical landscape, they will use it again tomorrow. So you can't live under that fear, by that fear. It's a mistake you committed in the past by reviving Russia after they were destroyed in Afghanistan. It's a mistake you committed when you helped them in Chechnya. It's a mistake when you committed when you helped them in Syria. It's a mistake you keep doing the same mistake again. It's a mistake you helping them now in Ukraine, or at least turning a blind eye to what they're doing. You're getting yourself in trouble. You already got yourself in trouble. You have to erase that mistake, and your only way of erasing, your only method and chance of erasing that mistake is defeating them in Ukraine. Folks, you cannot live under the threat of Putin every day. This is like a robber coming every day, waving the gun at you, and you give him the money. What do you think is going to happen? He's going to come back the next day and the third day and so on and so forth. And eventually he will come into your business without even a gun. He'll just ask for the money and you give it to them, right? This is more like Vito Corleone running the show in the neighborhood undercover, right, in the city. Eventually people don't object him anymore, don't resent him anymore, don't fight him off anymore, don't push back anymore. They just do what he asks them. That's what Pustalenin and his cabal are. They are that Vito Corleone and his muscles and his consiglieres and whatnot. That's what he is. So you can't live like that, folks, because things are going to exacerbate and things are going to get worse day by day, slowly and surely but slowly. This cabal in Moscow is not going away, folks. Neither it has changed ever since it was conceived and ever since its inception by Lenin. They're all brothers, from Lenin through Stalin, through Gorbachev, through Brezhnev, through Khrushchev, through Chernenko, through whoever it is until Putin. These guys are three brothers, and they're not going away, folks. If they want to go away, they will destroy Russia. Not by nuclear weapons, but they're going to tear down every building. But you may say, you don't want to do that. Well, they're doing that in Ukraine now. So they're doing it anyway. So you either fight and actually have a stand a chance of defending off this terror from the East, these terrorists from the East, or you wait and they will destroy you. They are going to destroy you anyway, whether you take it, you sit back and relax, or fight them and lose. So you have to fight and win. So it is now time to go into Ukraine and fight them off. I think Ukraine is giving you a good deal. They don't want you to send your soldiers. Just send them effective weapons where we can shoot down those airplanes, or fire like long artillery where they hit those concentrations of Russian soldiers and so on. I feel bad for those Russians. They have been demented for the past 100 years under the rule of communism. They've become demented. They just don't think anymore. And you also need to think of that too, you Western Europeans, because if they rule you, they will eventually dement you, your population, and your population will start thinking like the Russian orcs or soldiers do in Ukraine now. It's a sad story, folks. At the end of the day, these are family people. They have children, they have wives, they have relatives, and so on. And I don't think many of them just want to come take a joyride in Ukraine just about to kill people. Certain strand of them, certain creed of them, yes, but not all of them. Like Alfred Pennyworth in the Batman movie said, some people you can't reason with, you cannot make peace with, you cannot deal with, you cannot trust. Some people just want to see the world burn, and that's them. They're in Moscow, and they're in Shanghai, and Beijing, and they're in Tehran, and they're here and there, of course, and they're not going away, folks. These folks, these creatures understand only one thing. When there is enough, they understand force, and only when they're threatened. When they're threatened by, they know that if they venture into a military campaign, that it's going to come back and harm them, is when they stop. That's it. They won't go away, folks. But eventually they will. However, that's a different subject. So, Scandinavians, Germanics, if your establishments don't do things on their own, you as citizens have to rise up and do things on your own. And remember, EU and NATO are detrimental for you, whether you're Germanic, whether you're Scandinavian, whether you're French, Italian, Hungarian, Greek, you name it, Polish, Baltic, Spanish, Dutch, whatever you are. These two organizations, EU and NATO, are so detrimental to you that when push comes to shove, they will have achieved the impossible by holding you back, by making sure you sit still when, like Tweety, when Sylvester told him sit still so he can kill him, right? And that's all they're doing. Scandinavians, you can't hand over your own fate and your own defense or the fate of your nation to the hands of NATO and EU, who are working for Israel and who are supporting Pustalenin to take over Europe. Now, if you're in the establishment, why don't you think it a little bit harder? Maybe if you love your country, maybe it's now time to really go ahead and disobey those orders that come from Tel Aviv, right? and say, fuck it, you're going to fight them now, and that's it. You will have saved your nation. You will have saved your country. Basic and simple. I cannot elaborate more. I cannot elucidate more. I cannot enlighten you more. What it is very obvious. That polity, that framework in Moscow is very shallow in thinking, but very deadly in intentions. And the strategy is very simple, folks. You may have thought when I started bragging about this before the war, or even the first 1 or 2 days of the war, or even before, that this is a comprehensive operation to take over Europe. You doubted me a lot, but now you're probably sure of it. Have a nice day, my friends, and see you later on my ad hoc rants. Now remember, in my comparative trends program, I mentioned something about similarity between communism and Nazism and the revolution of Iran and so on. Believe me, folks, if you try to compare the two, all these movements together, you will see they're in lockstep. The maker and the thinker is one, really. Have a nice day, my friends. We'll see you later.